There's no doubt the Republican race for governor is heating up. And some of the discourse is high level and some of it is very, very low level. Welcome into My State of Mind. Welcome into My State of Mind. I am Dan Yorke. Thank you very much for tuning in. Ken Block is my guest tonight, and I think this is probably, I didn't count this, but I think it's 3 times that Ken has been on this broadcast since we began 7 months ago. Alan Fung has been on this program once, I believe, before he announced for governor, and he has a seat at this table, just like the Democratic candidates do, and it's their option to pass or play. If anybody thinks that I've got, somebody sent me, because at the end of the radio show today, I mentioned that I'd be picking up my $10,000 in cash in a brown bag for my interview with Ken Block. Got my name on it and everything. Somebody from downstairs pranked me. Nothing. The Dan Yorke Show, radio, television, or citizen version is in nobody's corner. It's a question of who shows up, when, and where. However, I just want you to know something. I'm going to tell you what I think, and I don't keep a scoreboard. If someone's got 6 straight great decisions they've made, I'm going to tell you. If they made 7 wrong in a row, I'm going to tell you that too. And the reason I don't keep score is because every day is a new day. Let's go to the News Mega Line. I'm glad I got that off my chest. Very interesting work by Tim White. You got to see it. This is some of the dumb stuff that's going on in the governor's race on both sides of the political aisle. I don't want your blood money. Where'd that come from? It's Holy Week. Anyway, it's not about that, but you'll get it. This is just the wrong direction. And this is going to be very interesting with the mayor in case he runs again. Let's dig in. Got a lot to do here tonight. This is the conversation, clues about the raid. The State House was the place on March 21st where the feds, the IRS, and the state police showed up at Gordon Fox's office. The Speaker of the House is home too. Tim White is making progress, trying to figure out what everybody wants to know. What are they looking for?
After weeks of rumors, the federal investigation swirling around Gordon Fox is starting to come into focus. We can now report law enforcement is zeroing in on his campaign finances. Several hours before these now iconic images became part of Rhode Island political legend, state and federal investigators knocked on the door of this East Providence home. It belongs to Ruth Desmarais, who at the time was House Speaker Gordon Fox's longtime executive assistant at the State House. Sources tell Target 12 investigators were seeking campaign finance reports, and Desmarais directed them to Fox's State House office. We reached Desmarais at her home on Tuesday.
Can I help you?
Hi, you Ruth?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Tim White. Do you have a quick second for me?
No, I have no comment.
Records show Fox raised nearly $550,000 from 2010 when he became Speaker through the end of last year. The campaign cash came from supporters, lobbyists, and political action committees. The records show Fox had just over $202,000 on hand as of January 1st, and he held another big money fundraiser just 2 months before the raid. Fox has stepped down as Speaker but remains a state representative, though he hasn't been seen at the State House since. With Fox gone, there is a new House Speaker, Nicholas Mattiello. A spokesperson tells me Mattiello has reassigned Ruth Desmarais, that's Fox's former aide. She is now the executive assistant to the new House Finance Chair.
Great work on the part of Target 12 and Tim White there. So a little bit of a flavor. Who knows? No charges yet, but just think about this. Go to the WPRI.com website and read the narrative that the team put together there. I mean, Gordon Fox at one point had $500,000 in his campaign. Reportedly, he's a fledgling professional lawyer. So when you've got a part-time job and a fledgling profession, but you've got all that campaign money that's sniffing around you, maybe the aroma is just too good to be true. You know what I mean? We got to reform the way we operate the State House, and all that money at the disposal of the Speaker to run the political operations, not good. Not good at all. Next item. How much did you make? I don't know. How much did you make? I don't know. How much did you make? This is the dumbest thing in the world. The headline today in the Providence Journal. I get so frosted about this. It's almost like I'm back on the radio. We record this only about an hour after I'm done with the radio. I'm still steaming over this. This happens every political cycle. I want to know how much you made. I want to know how much you made. And all these candidates, disclose what you made. Disclose what you made. You know what? Who cares who makes what in the private sector en route to running for governor? Who cares? All these candidates, doesn't matter who, what, where, they're all, chipping at each other, chirping at each other. Ken Black right there is the one guy that says he's not going to give up his personal tax information because it's tied to his sub-S corporation, and I understand what the competitive problems are there. Alan Fung, made 85 grand as the mayor of Cranston last year. By the way, Gina made almost $500,000 because she coughed it up, but she didn't give you the whole tax return. She just showed the journalists a couple of line items. This is a really dumb thing. One of the reasons why people don't get into politics and public service is because they got to get financially naked in front of the constituents. Now look, there's a difference. If you've got a conflict of interest, or if you're doing business with the jurisdiction that you want to govern or represent, that's a whole nother matter. You should disclose that. What we need is ethics commission reform to run the whole gamut. But the idea that the money that you made last year or the year before is anybody's business because you want to run for office is insane, it's stupid, it's petty, it's beneath what ought to be the public discourse. I've got an opinion or two on that, I think you can tell. Let's move on to the next item. I don't want your blood money. The Mothers Against Drunk Driving have said that. Here's the online headline. This is very strange. So this woman, Jean Donegan, who is a lawyer, and I think she's separated from her husband, which is germane only in that the young lady that her daughter, who had this big party, is in East Greenwich. So she brings all the kids up from East Greenwich, and they take over the house, and all heck breaks loose, and the cops show up, and they knock on the door, and she says, more or less, get out of here, and reportedly she put her hands on an officer, and so she was charged for that and that. I guess they came to a settlement. $5,000 to the Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Unfortunately, Gaby Abadi at MAD doesn't want the money. She says it's the wrong signal. She said, I'd love to have the money for our public outreach, but not under these circumstances and context. We're going to do more on this. I'm going to invite Gaby in here. She's a longtime acquaintance of the Dan Yorke Show, and I really want to hear what she thinks about this. But I'm trying to figure out, how does somebody pay $5,000 and get out of a criminal charge that way? I'm not saying anything's corrupt or wrong. I just don't think it makes any sense. And by the way, this shows you that justice is not equal in America today. Because if you got $5,000 to send to MAD, even though they don't want it, you can get away with shoving a police officer. I mean, how many people in the inner city get away with that kind of stuff? We need to do more on this. Let me ask the North Kingstown Police to elaborate as to what they were thinking here. Next item. This is tricky. Very, very tricky. The Speaker of the House endorses this idea. The headline reads, "This bill would amend the receivership law." You know what receivership is. It's a form of you're broke or taken over, kind of like bankruptcy. And Rhode Island has put into place this idea for cities and towns. Central Falls got bailed out with receivership. We've got partial receivership issues in Woonsocket. There are other communities that are tinkering on the right here as to whether or not they need a government takeover. Okay. Well, the Coventry Central Fire District has been all jammed up, right? The votes by the people, they don't want the tax increases. And finally, through the judicial system, the Superior Court judge, Brian Stern, decided that he was just going to shut this thing down because the fire district couldn't uphold its balance sheet. Well, rather than just doing that, they've got a bill that had a House Finance last night that was passed 12-1 to create that receivership option for fire districts. That's not good. What we ought to be thinking about is legislation that would end fire districts. This move is a way to save the union jobs in the Central Coventry Fire District and bypass the will of the people. Only one person on finance voted against it, the rep from the district. Yeah, Patty Morgan, the Republican. She's on the outs with a lot of these people. It shouldn't matter. Wrong-headed, Mr. Speaker and everybody else. Work on ending fire districts. You know why? They are political cesspools. And lastly, interesting, front page of the Providence Journal today, little birthday party for Buddy Cianci at 73. Folks are asked to bring $500 a pop so they can grab 10, 15 grand to have his portrait done appropriately. There's a picture of him in City Hall, but it's not the right kind of portrait, and so they want to match it up. I guess the last three mayors don't have their portraits, and now it's privately funded stuff, and I'm fine with that. I think the timing on this front page story is interesting, though, don't you? Buddy Cianci, if his health continues to improve, and reportedly he's doing very well, is opting, it's going to have to decide here in the next couple of months whether he's running for mayor again. So my big question is, his big question in the story, I guess, is whether he wears the toupee or not. I'm less concerned with that. My big concern is, if these are portraits of former mayors, what do you do if one comes back in? What do you do with the picture? We'll find out if that's a dilemma, I guess. Ken Block, next. Where's my brown bag? Nothing.
I would oppose paying the 38 studios debt based on all the information that we have available, and that will free up $12.5 million to help pay for business tax reform.
That was Alan Fung's press conference yesterday. See, Alan, we're trying to help you out. Even though you won't show up here on the show, we'll see if we can make some arguments for you. All in fair play. It's because I didn't get the full... Anyway, here's the... it's been one of those days. Here's the full screen. Here's the Fung tax plan, tax reform. Lower the corporate tax, cut the minimum tax in half, match federal exemption for the estate tax, and lower the sales tax. And he's going to pay for it. I'll show you how, other than just the $12 million for 38 studios. Ken Block is here. Actually, Ken called his own press conference today on matters of what? Good government and all that kind of stuff?
Ethics.
Yeah,
corruption.
It's a conversation we really need to have. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Did you not get a good lunch pack today?
No, it's just, you know. You know what, we've talked about this before. I don't need to legitimize having you on here, and you can come here as often as you have something new and interesting to say in this race. You are invited here. That is the same for Alan Fung. That is the same for Gina Raimondo, Angel Taveras, Clay Pell, whoever else is running for an important office. And here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to have you here because it feels like an imbalance. In other words, if you've got good ideas and you want to show up, you're here. That's the speech. You don't need to say anything about that.
I'm here.
You're here. Just a little momentum off the radio show today where people think this thing is tilted. It's not. Candidates make that determination. Let's talk about Fung's plan. Here's what for a second, here's how he wants to pay for what is $200 million he says he can save. He's going to hold the spending down. The budget surplus, I have no idea where the heck that comes from. I haven't figured that out. It'd be nice if he could answer that question. And he's going to reduce the size of government and 38 studios, $12.5 million. Let's work backwards for a second. The $12.5 million savings, everyone's kind of hyped up now on whether to pay 38 studios. It's becoming a hyperbolic conversation. Sure. What is your latest take on that?
We should not pay 38 studios.
Okay. Because?
That was a dirty deal inflicted on us by insiders, and Rhode Islanders shouldn't be on the hook for something that was been done behind closed doors, and they were forced to eat it.
There's a whole nother little dynamic going on with this whole thing that people need to pay attention to, and that is the lawsuit by the chief of the administration against former EDC members and all that kind of thing, Kurt Schilling and the like, goes poof if the $12.5 million a year comes off the line item. Because if there is no money that we have to pay, there is no reason to sue to get the return.
How interesting. Never thought about that.
Aha. So there's a game that's going on here. In addition to just moral debt and all that kind of stuff, there's an inside litigation cover your game that's going on here. That'll be your next press conference if you look into it. Reaction to Fung's plan?
It looks really similar to me. Oh. We announced a lot of the specific policies that are on there. The lowering of the corporate tax we proposed months ago. The idea of cutting new businesses some slack in the minimum corporate tax we had done some time ago. There's not a lot of imagination.
The minimum corporate tax, you can't do that for. You want to do it for new companies?
I want to do 2 years for new companies.
I'm paying that tax, and so are thousands of other companies here. They need tax relief too. So if he's talking about half of everybody, I'm with him on that one.
That's fine. I mean, for me, we want to help new businesses as best we can, and frankly, with a $500 million budget deficit coming down the line at us, we have to be very careful about what we cut and what we don't cut right now.
I don't know where a $70 million budget surplus comes from in that wishful thinking.
I didn't know we have a surplus anywhere on the horizon.
Yeah, all right. So you know what? I'm going to pause here early, come back and talk about what he wants to talk about, because he had a press conference today on government behavior, which is what I've been talking about for a long time. Stay with us. All right, so at press time, Kim Blackett actually had a press conference around 2:30 today. We record late afternoon, so we didn't get any of the footage. We'll see it tomorrow. But since you're here, what the heck? What did you do? You called a press conference at the State House today to say what?
Yeah, we talked about the ethics crisis in this state. The general gist of it was the fact that we have elected officials who are running for governor who claim to be change agents, but yet they play the same political games that all the predecessors have played.
Who what?
So, for instance, we have the treasurer and we have Mayor Taveras, who aggressively were kissing the brass ring of power of Speaker Fox, helping him with his tough re-election fight in Providence, donating to him, rallying around the cause, because he is the speaker, he is the titular head of the Democratic Party, and that's what good soldiers do.
So how are they supposed
when the time
to know?
comes?
They'll say, well, how were we supposed to know?
Well, look, the stink
That
of
he was jammed up.
the stink of 38 Studios is already attached to him, right? I mean, so there was plenty of hints about what was there, and frankly, what we don't need in this state is more of the same. What we don't need are politicians who adhere to the political machine party line, doing the bidding of those who control the machine, and that's what happened there. It's wrong. It's not quite as wrong as Mayor Fung donating to the speaker, but the biggest problem for the mayor, and for me really, and for everybody.
When did Mayor Fung donate?
I couldn't tell you the exact date. I have to dig that up for you. I don't have that.
One time? Many times?
I don't know that either. I'll have to dig that up.
You come here to say these things and you don't know.
I say those things and I don't know that.
You don't. Guys, come up with the information in the next couple of minutes. You got the staff here.
We'll figure it out.
But
might have to rush.
Well,
But-
no, has it been substantial donation relationship?
I believe there was at least one substantial donation that was made.
Okay. So what's your point on that?
The point on that again is we have more kissing of the brass ring of power, okay? Because what you don't do if you're an agent of change is you don't participate in the perpetuation of the power that we currently have in office, because what we know is that what we're doing is not working. And what the mayor has done, where he's really jammed up in my opinion.
Which mayor?
Mayor Fung. He was on TV this weekend with Tim White here, and he was asked about receiving the campaign donations from the union that he was negotiating with, the police union. And he was asked if he felt it was a conflict of interest, and his answer was, it's not.
Well, there was the donations from Kent Antonucci himself.
Well, Antonucci, the lawyer for the union, is Rodeo, and a whole bunch of police officers. And the problem is, it really is a conflict of interest. It's actually a substantial conflict of interest. Because how do you conduct fair negotiations on behalf of the taxpayers when the people you're negotiating with are putting money in your campaign cash account? The answer is you can't. And Mayor Fung's response to the question was he didn't see a problem with it, and then he doubled down on it. And what he said was, and by the way, I take money from a lot of other unions I negotiate with too.
Yeah, we played that here. Enough said. It was puzzling to me how he thinks that's A, good government, and B, logical.
That should be a disqualifying statement for running for office of governor, because we don't need a governor who plays those games, right? Career politicians in Rhode Island play those games, and I get it that to a large extent the population's kind of become numb to it, but you know what? It's really not okay.
Did you call Fung corrupt today?
It's a corrupt action when you are receiving donations from the same bargaining unit that you're bargaining with. It's a conflict of interest. Plain and simple, common sense tells you that it's a conflict of interest.
I can't argue with you on that. Talk to me about this idea of releasing your tax returns. You have a sub-S corp?
I do, I have two. It's really easy for career politicians to look and say, here's my taxes, right? I'm in very competitive businesses where pricing matters, where margins matter, all kinds of things matter. And when I'm disclosing my tax returns, I'm showing all my competitors what's going on.
People need to understand, you're a sub-S corp.
Correct.
So as a sub-S corp, your profit and loss statement and your profit, net bottom profit, is actually your taxable income. So the corporation's bottom line appears on your individual tax return.
And are you familiar with the data that the Ethics Commission requires every candidate to file in June? They get pretty deep into your personal wealth. They want to know your investments, they want to know your loans, they ask for everything. You have a far better financial picture with what candidates are required by law to provide to the Ethics Commission than they do here. This is really nonsense.
Yeah, I agree. It is nonsense, and it's petty, and it's silly, and It also prevents people from wanting to run for office who have had, who've worked for a living and don't have to get naked completely.
There's no getting naked here.
I'm talking about financial naked. You know what I mean? I mean, people don't want to have to undress in front of everybody financially in order to be able to say, I want to serve the public.
Right.
If you've got dealings with the jurisdiction that you want to run for or govern, that's a whole different matter.
Correct.
Real quick, the ethics conversation seems to be lost in the state. Here we've had a raid of the State House, and no one wants to see. You've said some things, but it's almost like people want this elephant in the room to just die. We can't. No tax plan or business model is going to work unless we get a reputation for
That's right.
behaving better.
Businesses look at us and they're horrified at the way we run our government. They're horrified that you got to know someone to get something done. And they're frankly horrified that the voters here look at this and say, yep, that's Rhode Island.
All right. I'm horrified because I'm out of time. Come back when you have something new and substantial.
I will.
All right. When we come back, your state of mind. Stay with us. By the way, the Block campaign says it's $150 that Fung sent to Fox. Not the end of the world. Here's the Your State of Mind. Contact me at 228-1886 or email me or the like. And this lady says, hey, how about the old-fashioned way?
I'd like to write a letter with a pen and pencil. I know that's odd at this time, but I still would like to write my thing out in a letter. Okay, thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing an address pop up on TV.
Voila! Here is the address popping up on TV. Do we have the... Send it to Channel 12 in East Providence. It'll get here. I'll have the address tomorrow night. One of those days. See you tomorrow on My State of Mind on MyRI TV in East Providence.